Saturday, I've been doing a bit of traveling, man, a little bit worn out. You know what I mean? Saturday comes and, well, really, honestly, college football was kind of Like, we got to be honest about this. It matters who's good, but when who's good is Mizzou and Vanderbilt, I don't care, bruh. Texas A&M and LSU, oh, you can get me interested in that. Plus, I needed to watch Texas A&M because I needed to figure out exactly how it was that they were going to get, to an 8-4 season, as Texas A&M is prone to having 8-4 seasons. And I just want to start by saying that ain't no 8-4 football team. Ladies and gentlemen, good gracious, they look good. They look fast, but not necessarily that big. And trust me, something will happen, but it ain't gonna be 8-4. That ain't it. Meanwhile, they were on the other side of LSU, who looked every bit of 8-4. Now, the thing that happened that I wasn't necessarily expecting, I mean, it was kind of sort of on the board. We kind of sort of talked about this with Pat Forty last week, but when I decided that I was too tired to keep watching that game, it was still competitive. When I woke up in the morning, Ryan told me a little bit more about what happened. And Ryan, I think we both knew. Brian Kelly was done in that town.
Over. Anytime you get invaded by Aggies in Tiger Stadium, it's not going to last very long for you.
I can't imagine anything more terrifying than an Aggie invasion.
Correct.
Like just the thought of a bunch of Aggies bum rushing you. They're weird on top of everything. Oh, man.
And Aggies who have spent the last 12 hours before in Baton Rouge.
Yes. And do you know the last time that the Aggies won in Baton Rouge?
I'm not sure. It's been a long time.
1994.
That's wild.
Right, because remember, so when Arkansas joined the league, they decided to make LSU-Arkansas a rivalry. Right. They really did that. And to show you just how not rivalry that actually was, Texas A&M came in the league, and immediately it returned to being a bit of a rivalry as it was before, because there is a lot of similarities between Aggies and LSU fans. They're different kinds of weirdos.
I mean, right? LSU is an A&M school.
Yes. Yeah. It's just they're different kinds of weirdos. LSU's just a lot more fun.
Right.
And they don't have like a bourgeois counterpoint like the Aggies do to like ground their existence in. They don't have that. But A&M came in and LSU was beating them every year. It wasn't until like that 15 overtime game in the Ogeron year that A&M finally got themselves a win. Anyway, they took it all out on them. Now, there are a couple of dynamics for those of you who don't really follow college football that you need to understand that did not make this better. And actually, I think the biggest one, and I wonder, look, Brian Kelly was going to be cooked anyway. But when Mike Elko, the head coach at A&M, went out there and said, we've beaten them 60-6 in the second half the last 2 years, and that has a lot to do with our strength coach. And left unsaid for the large audience, but very clear to those close to the situation, is that strength coach used to be LSU's strength coach. And Brian Kelly, to be fair to him, did what most coaches as established as Brian Kelly would do under those circumstances, which is bring in his own strength coach. However, that's the kind of thing that got him fired. Okay, look, the thing that got him fired is that people don't like him. You can buy some time in these situations, right? But people don't like him. We have talked about this forever. He came from Notre Dame to LSU. He did not bring any of his assistants, and I'm sure he asked one or two. None of them came with him. He showed up, and he started talking with an accent that he did not actually possess. This man is from Massachusetts, and I can't think of any accent that is less like a Louisiana accent than a Massachusetts accent. But it's not like Brian Kelly came down there and used the Louisiana accent either. He just used a stock Southern accent. It's kind of like how Kevin Spacey, back when he was allowed to be in movies that people watch, any role he played was the same exact Southern accent. He didn't understand that it was differences between the two. Brian Kelly did that, right? Came down here. So what? People don't like him. The end results, he's in a very similar situation to James Franklin, where, I mean, I guess it's a little different with Franklin because Penn State post-Paterno hasn't really established a counterpoint as to what baseline success is. In fact, I mean, the only coach they've really had is James Franklin. Like, he has established kind of sort of what the baseline is. That'll make it very interesting for the next coach to see what they do. But Brian Kelly hit you with 2 10-win seasons, a 9-win season, and this season where they lost to teams that are currently ranked 3, 7, and 9, was probably shaping up to be a 9 or 10-win season, which is kind of what LSU does in the absence of outlier performance. That's just kind of what they do. Problem is, they have suffered at least one highly embarrassing loss every year, like an outright ass whooping every year. So you take a guy that people don't like, and then you add in some form of embarrassment every year in the form of one game. And number 3, this is the big one. Every school has a way that they like to play football. And they want their team to play in that style, in that personality, okay? For example, at Florida, this is a big part of why. Look, Lane Kiffin is the spiritual successor to Steve Spurrier if you don't pay very close attention. Basically, inclined toward being a jerk, and he likes to throw the ball. Okay. Florida wants to throw the ball. I think the jerk part is negotiable. But even if they don't throw it, because Urban Meyer wasn't exactly a fling it around the yard guy, but they like fun offense at Florida. That is very, 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 very important to them. That's part of why they brought on Billy Napier. They like fun offense. Part of why it didn't work in the end with Will Muschamp. Part of it was wins and losses, but Will Muschamp football, which is not the most sophisticated brand of football you've ever seen, that was not working for them. We're just going to line up and beat the hell out of people. It's not what they want down there. They would have loved Will Muschamp football at LSU. They would have won some better results in the end, but we're just going to line up and take it to you. LSU, here for it. That's the kind of football they want. And Ryan, you as our resident LSU grad, it is fair to say Brian Kelly football for you guys was not lining up and taking it to people.
No, I mean, this is it's fascinating looking back on it, right? Because you look at the record, it's 34-14. You know, that is a acceptable record. Pretty much everywhere besides what? Ohio State and Alabama?
Right.
But however, if you start digging into that at all, it's 5-11 versus ranked teams. It's soft, it's undisciplined, and it is not aesthetically pleasing. And that's how you lose the former players, the fans.
Yes.
And then it seems like from all the reporting, lost the administration very fast and then spiraled out of control.
Yeah, again, don't have friends. You don't play the kind of football that they want to play, and you're taking one ass whooping every year.
And they bring up, and it's very funny, when no one likes you and they bring up, should we fire this guy? And no one raises their hand in dissent.
Right.
You know, like that, what are you going to do?
Like, no one, can you imagine expending hard-earned political capital to save Brian Kelly's job?
Again, after losing to Vanderbilt and Texas A&M in back-to-back weeks.
And by the way, Vanderbilt, not a bad team. Just
Correct.
throwing it out there. But you know what they are?
Vanderbilt.
Right. They're going to have to do a lot before they stop being Vanderbilt.
And it's funny because, like, you look at the past 2 firings, right? Like, the Orgeron firing was semi-controversial at the time. He just won a national championship 2 years ago. You know, he's one of those people in Louisiana. He's very much of the brand.
Yes.
I mean, they tried to get out west. They had to try. They tried to chop his head off, and then they changed their mind at at halftime of the Texas A&M game 10 years ago.
Yes.
And then now there's no dissent of the Brian Kelly fire, even with the $53 million buyout.
Nobody's saying take me instead when it's time to fire Brian Kelly. It's not happening. And yes, a $54 million buyout that they don't know how they're going to pay. They just know they're going to pay it. Yeah, this is college football.
Yeah, I mean, it's very funny how 2 weeks ago I was talking about, we were talking about the absurdity of James Franklin's buyout.
Yes.
And now, when it's my team, like, Well, if it's 6 years, and it's only 800 grand a month,
Yeah.
and if you get the offset language, he gets another job. Like it's just a decision you have to make.
Yeah, now see, they're cooked though, because him finding another job is tricky. He's 64 years old, and I'm not exactly sure who's bringing in a man that age after what you watch were the shortcomings of this team, right? Like, yeah, we'd love a coach that has a team that gets knocked off the ball every time that it gets snapped. Yeah, who doesn't want that? Like, what job is up to the standards of Brian Kelly that Brian Kelly is going to take? And look, everybody dislikes Brian Kelly. I want to be very clear. Brian Kelly has a full-on Hall of Fame resume. Whether if he does not get into the Hall of Fame, it's going to be because people don't like him. That's all it comes down to.
He's one of the best 10 coaches of the last 25 years.
Yeah. Like his run at Notre Dame had some hiccups, but it was strong. That is not an easy place to win, right? Like I think the idea that you can win a national title at Notre Dame, again, keeping in mind it hasn't happened in nearly 40 years, Kelly helped them elevate them to the place where Freeman is now. Like he's good. He's good, but this wasn't it. It was a big swing from the AD. All of us saw where it might not work. All of us saw also where it would. Because I remember me and Mike Golick Jr. would talk about this. That first year, I want to say the over-under total on LSU wins with the books was something like 7.5 or 8.5. And I was so mad I did not see that because I would have put $100,000 on that because there was no way in the world that Brian Kelly was going to go to LSU and wasn't going to win no 9 games. And they won 10.
It might have been 6.5 because you have to remember how depleted the roster was.
Right. But it never dawned on me that they were going. Brian Kelly was not going to have a 6.5 win season at LSU.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to be it, right? Now, look, it's done. It's happened. Now we get to the real fun where Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, who covered LSU for many years, there is a line in his story about how all of this went down that said, quote, "This is the most Louisiana thing ever," unquote. I don't know how much you guys know about knowing. I'm just here to tell you, if it's the most Louisiana thing ever, they're not saying it makes sense. That's not, it's only a compliment if it's a party. Perhaps a mixed drink. But it's the most Louisiana thing ever means, oh boy. I believe, I don't think it's going to be necessarily this way in sum total, but if you were to tell me that the phrase ass backwards started in Louisiana, it's totally on the board. You could convince me that that is the point of origin. Like, you know how everybody's got something that they are convinced that they invented, some phrase that they came up with first. For example, as I told you guys, my advisor in graduate school is a brilliant man named Sandy Darity, who was adamant that he was the first person to ever call Barry White the Walrus of Love. My brother is adamant that he is the first person to ever say drop a deuce in reference to defecation. I believe using cape as a verb is something that I was on a bit of the vanguard of. I used to think I was the first person to call Trae Young Trey the Barge, but I was wise enough to look it up on Twitter first, and other people have said it, but baby, we in the same boat. I merely popularized the phrase, okay? Ass backwards, that sounds like Louisiana to me. Sounds like where it came from. You need to understand how crazy this could get, or probably is going to get. Well, first of all, you know it was crazy because they all got together in Louisiana to talk about this on a Sunday. And I need you to understand something. One thing that Louisiana is not about, has never been about, and will never be about is hard work. I know that in many places you would take that as an insult if I question your work ethic. Louisiana's looking at me like, you're damn right. What's the point of that? It's the French influence. You go over to France, they ain't about working hard. Ryan, you're from Louisiana. You're not offended at all by what I'm saying, are
Not
you?
in the slightest.
They're like, you're the ones doing it wrong.
No, yeah. I mean, not only were they working on the Sunday, they were working on Sunday in the governor's mansion.
Yes, they did this in the governor's mansion. Like, first of all,
which is now that I say that, it's a very Louisiana phrase.
Yes.
The governor's mansion.
Yes, but you knew that they were firing him when they decided to get to work on Sunday.
Correct.
Nobody was going over there to not do
doing
nothing.
A full day after church. Yeah.
You know how mad they would have been if they went over there and the thing didn't get done.
Yeah.
Working. And let me tell you this. Everybody that went in there on Sunday, not a damn one of them was coming to work on time on Monday. You can write that down. Maybe they were like, hey, I have already done my part. But anyway, they all went to the governor's mansion to do this. Part of why they had to go to the governor's mansion to do this is LSU right now doesn't have an actual factual president. They have an interim president and they have 5 finalists. So the governor, who got on Twitter during the game and sent a tweet that said, I don't know about these ticket price increases they're over there talking about, decided that this has to be done. And now it appears that the governor is going to be the one to hire the coach. And that, does that sound like a good idea? Just throwing it out there.
Huey Long is not walking through that door.
No, but my question is, like, as the university president, you would want to hire your own coach.
Or at least be involved in the search, or how the search is done.
Right. So is this going to accelerate the president's search? Like, is that what we're going to get? It is. Anything is possible with what goes on.
Because it's also important context to remember that LSU's AD used to be Texas A&M's AD, and his white whale forever was Jimbo Fisher.
Yes.
Not to say they're going to get Jimbo Fisher. That to say is, I question after wanting Jimbo Fisher and hiring Brian Kelly, I question his judgment on football coaches.
Well, first of all, I have heard that Jimbo's on the board. At the very least, I think Jimbo will get a courtesy interview, right? Like, I think that Scott may do that. Scott Wilbur may do that for his buddy. The look on your face at the thought of Jimbo Fisher being the head coach is pretty hilarious. I have to say.
I'm going to be like Howard Bryant watching Kurosawa movies on Saturday if we hire Jimbo Fisher.
There's no chance. They could not hire Jimbo. But here's the thing. Is the athletic director even allowed to make this hire? Because I think a question that's going to come down to for the future of college football is, given what this money is that they're spending to get people out of these jobs, are you going to let the AD make the hire?
Right. If you spend $50 million to get rid of somebody, you think you'd be in the meeting.
Yeah, but the problem is, look at some of these examples of what happens when you don't let the AD make the hire. Case in point, North Carolina.
Right.
Where the AD absolutely did not make that hire, and now the AD is probably going to have to be the one to fix it.
Right. Like, they very famously, or not very, but wanted the Tulane coach, who's now going to be on the short list for all these open SEC jobs.
Yes.
And now, and instead, they got Belichick, and they're in the situation they're in.
Right. And now, speaking of the SEC, Lane Kiffin has. This is startling that there's a reason why Lane Kiffin is only at Ole Miss right now at this point in his career, is because we all had decided that he is un tonto, right? We had concluded that this man was a fool, unworthy of, not a bad coach, just a fool you couldn't put too close to the top. And now it looks like he'll have his choice between LSU and Florida.
He is somehow 50 years old, the best coaching candidate by a mile, and is on his third best job in college football.
Yes, that is a great point. I have not thought about it in
and his
that
fourth
way.
Best college coaching job he's ever had, if you count the Raiders.
Yes, but I would tell you this. I'll take Summerall as the coach at Tulane before I take Lane. Like, I'm not putting myself. I was watching that clown, and I don't even know this man, so I feel so bad for being so passionate about what a clown I believe him to be. But he's getting ready to do the post-game interview on ABC, and he's talking shit to a dude on the other team, to a 20-year-old.
I mean,
what are you doing?
He also might have destabilized LSU within 6 weeks. Remember, his daughter is dating one of the players.
He did. But no, he's either going to LSU or he's going to Florida. I think Florida is probably a better situation. His brand of smarm, I just don't think is going to play at LSU in quite the right way. Think again, tonto. The offensive coordinator job at Alabama has turned into better positions than going to Florida Atlantic, which is what all that Lane could turn it into, because we acknowledge tonto. That's un tonto. He's a fool. I don't even know this man, but it just drives me crazy. Anyway, LSU is about to have a crazy person coaching search that may turn into them hiring Lane. Look, the SEC is so crazy, it is entirely possible that Bobby Petrino will be the head coach at Arkansas next year. That's very much so on the board.
It's crazy because Lane Kiffin is the third craziest person you could suggest for the LSU job.
Who you got above him?
Jimbo that you just threw
Yes.
out.
Yes.
There's going to be any of these jobs, there's going to be a small but vocal contingent wanting Gruden.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say Art Briles.
No. I think that ship has sailed. But
Yeah.
5 years ago, I'm surprised he didn't come up in the 21 search. So I think that ship has sailed.
Well, Art Briles is as close to being a head coach as he's going to be right now, which is his son-in-law coaches Mississippi State. And if you think Art Briles is not a part of that situation, honestly, if he's not, Jeff Lebby is doing this wrong.
Yeah.
Like if we're just talking about the football,
right.
not the people, just the football. Oh, got a little weird at Texas over the weekend,
right?
With the word getting out that apparently Steve Sarkisian has floated his name for coaching jobs, including the Titans. Keeping in mind that would be a $7 million pay cut in all likelihood if he did that. Brian Callahan made $3 million a year with that job. Sarkisian's in the 8 figures with Texas, so it's unlikely. But he seems miserable. He has seemed miserable throughout this year.
Right, and there's something clearly going on at Texas. Like,
yes.
Whatever's going on with the Arch Manning thing, they almost blew that. They got very lucky to win a game in Starkville this past weekend. That's talk about strange bedfellows with Sark and Lane.
Yeah, but Ryan, look what's available that we know of, plus what we think will be available. LSU is open. Florida's open. Penn State is open. We expect Florida State will be open. There are small chances that USC could be open. Very small, but I think on the board that Texas could wind up being open.
And then there's a 50-50 shot that Auburn's open as well.
Yeah, I think they would like for it to be open, right?
Yeah, I think if it gets bad over the next month, that's going to be open as well.
Yes. UCLA, weirdo job, open. North Carolina, which somebody's going to think they could be the one to fix.
Wisconsin's
going to be open.
Yeah, I mean they're awful.
That is a shocking turn of events that they're as bad as they are.
They're awful, and like they miss the days of the offense they used to run. Like that was a modern offense compared to what they're doing. I know they cannot throw the ball.
Right. But the thing I think that's going to save some of these people's jobs, like this is the question that a school like Carolina is stuck in, which is, who are we going to get to take this job? If all these other people's jobs are available, who are we going to get to take this job? Because what I haven't heard about, and maybe I don't know as much about the game as I used to, but I'm not hearing about that Tom Herman in 2016 type, like Lane Kiffin in 2009. And these are just, Will Muschamp was this guy at a different point. Now, look, these things did not necessarily work out, but Bob Stoops in 1999, the hot, this guy is next, Kirby Smart in 2016, because there are no Saban guys left for you to pluck, like go to Nick's staff and figure out who hasn't gotten a job yet and go ahead and take that guy. You've got dudes like Clark Lee, you got like Drinkovitz at Mizzou, like guys who are doing okay at these smaller jobs, but there used to be a young dude that nobody had hired yet that you look at and you're like, hey, that's who we need.
Like a college football version of Ben Johnson.
Yes, the kind of guy that Oklahoma historically would go hire. Like I said, what Lane Kiffin was when he was a younger guy. It's none of that. All we're hearing about is old guys at these other jobs, like a dude like Matt Rule that maybe was on this trajectory, but he went to the NFL, and now you figure out maybe he winds up at Penn State. Can you imagine how terrible it would be for Nebraska if they wind up have to look for another coach in this environment?
It was kind of the argument that people were making about like drafting Bo Nix about a year or so ago. If you're drafting the 6th best quarterback, how good is that quarterback?
Yes, but the other argument is you took Bo Nix or you took Michael Penix because we don't. What's down the pike?
Right. Exactly. If you don't take the 6th best quarterback now, who's coming up in 2 years?
Exactly. So the math on what you do is so all over the place. But this is going to be the most chaotic coaching search that we have ever seen. And it is so chaotic that I lie to you not. Robert Griffin got on his Twitter and told the world that he talked to Tyrann Mathieu, the honey badger, and he said that he wanted to be the coach at LSU, and Ryan did not dismiss it out of hand. LSU football, it is fantastic.